The recognition towards him is enormous. It is obviously, like I told before, it's like a luxury to have him. But I also know that he has different options, and he's a big name overall in the world. And I think in the upcoming days we'll have a good solution. We had a few days off. We came back into training, so now I think it gets to a point that we start the formal conversation. And before throwing anything out, which would be, I think, adventurous, I'd rather sit down and have a conversation as we agreed upon.
Guillermo said it might take like 1 to 2 weeks before you finally make that decision.
Yes, and I think with a player of his stature and his pedigree and what he represents to us, we need to be very formal and very respectful to that, and sit down and see what, obviously, where he's at in his career and his personal life, and evaluate the best for everybody.
There's some thought that perhaps you guys don't want Ibra back, that it's time to take the next step in the evolution of this club and find a younger forward, maybe a more mobile forward, someone who maybe fits with what you guys want to do going forward.
No, we're not moving forward until we really sit down with him and see where he is at. I think a player of his stature and of his impact in both the league and both our club deserves all the respect in the world to first sit down with him and see where he is at.
If he wants to come back, you guys want him back.
Well, who wouldn't want Ibra?
But, I mean, it is a big decision, because if he doesn't come back, you have a DP spot and $7 million that comes off the payroll.
No more a DP spot.
That's more important.
Well, and with that DP spot, Pavone, wouldn't he be filling that DP spot?
Yes, well, this year our DP spots were filled by Ibra, Alessandrini, and Jonathan Dos Santos. So next year, obviously, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be not only change in the DP spot, but in the entire roster with all the rules and regulations that you guys know a lot more of than I do. There's always a lot of changes.
Is there any kind of, we have a plan if Ibra comes back, we have a B plan if Ibra doesn't come back?
No, I think what we plan is not only based on him. It's based on the entire club and where we want to be and how we want to move forward. I think one of the challenges for us to move forward is to create a more recognizable style and a more recognizable identity to how we play. And in the end, he scored an enormous amount of goals. He's reached great heights with us and with other clubs, and I think that deserves a conversation with him.
Jorgen made $1 million last year and didn't dress at the end of the season. Is it fair to think that he might not be back next season?
Yeah, I think as you know, that what you have on the field is very much tied into your salary caps. Now, to go into individual players, I think it wouldn't be fair. It's more something for the coach. But for us, it's obviously very, very important that players that earn a certain amount of money that deliver.
Do you expect a lot of changes during this offseason?
Well, we have a certain amount of options to take. We have a certain amount of loans to discuss and assess and continue or not continue. And I think there will be some changes within our roster, yes.
What kind of status do you see for Ramon Alessandrini?
Well, as you know, Roman is a very, very good player. In his first 2 years, he delivered tremendously to the Galaxy. Now, this year has been very unfortunate with an incident injury, if I'm correct, against Salt Lake here at home. And it's obviously difficult for everybody, for him first and foremost, and second for the team and the coaching staff and the organization to have a player that has so much talent but not being able to play.
Well, you could be in a situation next year. If Ibra comes back, Pavone goes to a DP slot. That gives you 4 DPs with Alessandrini, so you'd have to deal with that.
Well, you have a lot of strategies that we have to go through.
Well, I mean, but that is
Those
one
are
of
the
the strategies
rules,
that-
yeah. And there's more strategies and there's more ideas and based on I think what you do is first you assess where you're at, and you assess where your season has been, and if it lived up to the expectations. I think that there's a lot of positives, but I think there's also a whole lot of things that we need to improve upon. And for us to get into the playoffs and have a good result against Minnesota, that is a big positive. Now, to end our aspirations and all the illusion that the fans had in the semifinals, I think for next year that we need to be ambitious and we need to hopefully surpass that. And obviously, I think the club needs a lot of work on a lot of things, and one of the things is the roster, and the roster implies rules and regulations and DP slots and TAM and everything that has to be assessed, and it's difficult to obviously go into detail in a couple of minutes here.
Is it difficult to do that, knowing that they have the labor agreement coming up and all of those potential changes to build a roster?
Well, there's always, if there's like an insecurity or there's something that comes up, I think the best thing is to work with how the current rules are, and now to think of what might happen or think of what might go on. I think with the CBA coming up, I think, and I think there will be a lot of positives going for the players. And in the end, will mean a lot of positives also for different clubs, obviously. But before to go there and to see and judge what it now actually takes to change things, I think it'd be very hard. We're now working and thinking as if the current rules would be in existence, and I think that's the most realistic thing you can do. Now, if something changes, we'll act upon.
Luis, buenas tardes. Un poquito en español, por favor. De la situación de Uriel Antuna, sabemos de a quién le pertenece su carta, pero sabemos que hay interés también de equipos en México. ¿Cuál es la postura del Galaxy con Uriel?
Bueno, la situación de Uriel es relativamente fácil. Él pertenece al Manchester City y antes de que vino acá platicamos que en algún momento que hay un interés de un tercero, pues nosotros tenemos la suficientemente buena relación de Manchester City de igualar o platicar o ver cuáles son las opciones para Uriel en lo económico y en lo deportivo. Yo creo que ha sido un año para Uriel que creció mucho, que la verdad ha tenido continuidad y que ha aportado en llegar a las instancias donde llegamos, pero también nosotros tenemos que ser realistas en competir con ciertas ofertas que podrían venir de México. Pues hay que ver si es responsable o si es un consejo que yo podría dar aquí al Galaxy en competir con eso.
¿Sería una de las prioridades retenerlo, digamos? ¿Está dentro de las prioridades máximas del equipo?
Mira, aquí tienes un tope salarial y tienes reglas que cumplir, y todo lo que afecta el tema económico es un impacto muy grande. Todo lo que representa Uriel en la cancha tiene que ser balanceado en temas financieros y económicos para el tope salarial. Entonces tenemos que hacer nosotros un balance en si lo que podría valer, si es lo que realmente nos da deportivamente.
Yo sé que ya hablaste de Zlatan en inglés, te pido si nos
Ya.
puedes hacer un breve resumen en español de la situación de Zlatan y para cuándo piensas que hay una solución.
Mira, la carrera de Zlatan y lo que representa Zlatan, no nada más para el Galaxy, pero para la liga y en fútbol en general, amerita mucho respeto y amerita como hemos hablado desde antes, que nos sentamos con él y que él también tiene mucha injerencia y muchos argumentos dónde quiere seguir su carrera y cómo quiere seguir su carrera y en qué forma quiere seguir su carrera. Yo nada más le puedo decir que este año ha sido espectacular en cuestión de goles, asistencias, el impacto de él en la liga, y el siguiente paso sería platicar con él. Sé que también tiene muchas ofertas y hay mucha gente pescando a sus servicios, como todos los años, y como es un jugador reconocido mundialmente, entonces ahí lo sabremos cuando platicamos con él.
En líneas generales, ¿cuáles son los puntos que a ti te interesa más reforzar en el equipo?
Yo creo que, pues como todo el mundo puede ver, pues la verdad ha sido ciertamente inconsistente en el equipo. Yo creo que más positivo que negativo el resultado final, pero sí podemos encontrar una consistencia y un equilibrio defensivo de mayor calidad, yo creo que sería un buen punto para el próximo año.
La última de mi parte, Denis. ¿Está el Galaxy dispuesto en posición de ceder a algún jugador un par de meses como se ha manejado, ¿no? Que tal vez Jonathan salga
No.
un par de meses o el mismo Muriel?
No.
Para nada, no estaría.
No nos da los tiempos. Actualmente están entrenando, falta muy poco para que sea finales de noviembre y diciembre, y en enero, mediados de enero ya se representan acá. Pues, la verdad, más que se habla mucho del MLS, que los tiempos son muy largos de tiempo libre, en la realidad, en la práctica no es tanto así, porque pues ya es medianos de noviembre en lo que terminamos de entrenar, y cualquier compromiso, los jugadores más destacados obviamente tienen compromisos con sus selecciones nacionales, que ya estás hablando finales de noviembre, falta diciembre, y en medianos de enero ya se presentan acá. Entonces, no es opción como anteriormente se hizo, porque también prestas un jugador y regresa hasta mayo, junio, pues no, estamos en medio torneo.
Sorry. When do you expect to talk to Zlatan? Have you scheduled that yet, or
In
wait
the-
for him to come back?
No, for sure in the upcoming days.
Excuse me?
For sure in the upcoming days.
Okay.
Could you address the players here on loan in English? Antuna, Pavone you're bringing back as on a second year of the loan, correct?
Yes.
Antuna's situation, I understand, is a little more difficult.
Well, Antuna is on a loan without an option for us, or a clear option for us to buy. We have a gentleman agreement with Manchester City that if there is a third party coming in that wants to buy him, that we can match or we can discuss what the best option is. The team that he belongs to, which is Manchester City, they want the best for the kid. But in the end, there's also obviously a financial aspect. If you go to our salary cap and our rules and regulation, with the possible offer that he has coming in from Mexico, he would turn out to be a very, very expensive player for us.
Yeah.
And then I need to sit down with our ownership and with our coaching staff if that is a responsible move to acquire him definitely here. Or, like he wants, he would like to keep playing here, but there's probably certain offers financially that interesting that you can't pass upon.
Right. And Fabio?
And Fabio will discuss with the coaching staff in the upcoming days. We have until 21st of November to pick up the option if possible, or to renegotiate or do whatever we feel fit.
There's reports that you're going after Mauro Zarate.
No.
Okay. Have you got players that you are targeting that you are going after?
Yeah, we started actually, yes, from the beginning of the year with a more formal scouting effort and trying to map out our needs and based on options, based on contracts turning out, based on the level of what we're looking for. And I think in the upcoming weeks there will be a lot of traveling and a lot of looking at players and a lot of assessing of where we should be reinforcing and what not to do.
Does this club become more Latin as we go forward?
Sorry?
Does this team become more Latin as we go forward? We've seen Latin players come in and make a tremendous impact. And
I think we need to assess players by their quality and not by if they're Latin or if they're European. What we do need is we only have a certain amount of foreign slots, and so we need, and I think we actively need to reinforce the American player. I think there's a big need for players of more quality on all levels, on not only an MLS, but also a national team level, and I think we should reinforce together with U.S. soccer on those ends, and I think that will benefit American soccer in general. I do think that beginning of the year we discussed also that the local community should be given opportunities, and I think with Efrain and Julian, little by little you see a little bit, but those are things that take time. And now to pin us down as more of a Latin team, I don't see that. I think we should assess every good single player that the Galaxy can take, and I think this is a very diverse city, and I think we're more geared to that point of the philosophy.
do you have plans, I guess, how concrete are plans in terms of dealing with the back line and whatever changes you might make defensively?
Well, I think it is very obvious to see that we need to be defensively much more stable. So one of the priorities to assess those needs and see where we can strengthen ourselves out. It doesn't doesn't mean that you have to strengthen the back line to get defensively better also.
¿Cuál es la situación en ese sentido también de Diego Polenta, ¿no? Con el equipo? O sea, él está...
Pues nosotros tenemos la opción y hasta el 21 de noviembre tenemos para definir si lo tomamos o no lo tomamos.
Pero digamos, reiterando, ¿es prioridad para ustedes o...?
Pues Diego creo que en su primer año ha tenido muy buenos partidos y también es una cuestión de adaptarse a la liga y obviamente darse cuenta de la exigencia, pero en cuestión de liderazgo y de cada vez ser más adaptado es un caso muy positivo.
Can you confirm the Romney trade?
No.
Okay.
Until the trade window goes open.
Okay. And players who are out of contract, can you tell us who those are?
Nope. Also, we have to.
Got a list there?
Whoa! You did your scouting, Scott.
Anyone there that is?
You write worse than my document.
Shelvick, Alessandrini, Lamson, Steris.
Is this a scouting list or is this?
This is a list of guys that we're thinking might be out of contract. Bingham,
So
Carrasco.
you're guessing or you're?
Well, we're looking at second-year guys, and also, yes, to a certain extent, we are.
No, there's
guessing.
a few that still have a contract.
Who can you tell us
I
who those are?
cannot say.
I mean,
It's very privileged information. It's
but
like a
it-
doctor. It's like going to the
well,
doctor.
you
I
know,
can't give away my secrets.
Well, we understand with the salary, not knowing the length of contract prevents us from being able to write intelligently about what it is you guys might do, because we don't have an idea unless we ask the player themselves. Is this somebody that they have to make a decision on? I mean, this is stuff that in any other sport we've got.
And if it's here, it's not open. Why should I give it?
Because it doesn't hurt you to give it.
Or
and
maybe it does.
maybe it.
No, I to be honest, and not to go into too many things, I think there's players that have an option. We have until the 21st of November to pick it up. There's players that have a contract and that we really like to stay here. There were players that we have to renew also, and in certain cases we'll do that. Now to go in specifically publicly of what we need to do and where we need to do it and to speak on players, I think it's even if the player sometimes say, hey, I'd rather not go out with too much of my personal information, I would be very respectful to that.
How do you do that? Do you start at the top? For example, let's say you're trying to sign player A, and you think he's going to cost money. You'd like to keep player B, but he's not as important. So do you start with A, and then do you have money left?
Well, you
over?
have already a whole bunch of players in place, and you know what that's going to cost. And if you don't know what's going to happen with the CBA, but say there's the same rules and it's going to be added a little bit to the salary cap, and you're on the same regulations with TAM and GAM and everything else, you have an idea what you can spend. And I think in certain positions, probably you want to spend a little bit more than in other positions, and that has to do with the impact that those positions have directly on the results
So
of your
you like-
team. In the end, it is a big puzzle because there's always contracts, for example, on your list that are still guaranteed for next year and that have an impact, and that don't only have an impact on other players but also on their own situation going forward. And here I think it's like everywhere else. If there's a contract, that needs to be respected. But on the other hand, now going forward and opening certain slots or taking, that has to do with why would you take an option or why wouldn't you? It has to do a lot, and I don't know, I cannot judge if that's right or wrong, but the financial impact of bringing on players or extending contracts or taking options does have a big impact on the field here in MLS. You're like puzzling and scrambling in a lot of ways, and that's fine. It is what it is.
But you have a strategy, right? I mean, when you try to sign, X player is going to play 34 games at forward, you know he's really good. That's the guy you go for first, and if
Yes.
you have a little bit of money left over, you don't sign a
Yes.
substitute first and then run out of money.
And basically, when you start scouting players, there's a lot of time that goes into also to assess their financial situation and their contractual situation somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because it has a direct impact on us. And if there's a transfer sum that needs to be paid, or he's free of contract, or he maybe wants to lower his numbers and get more playing time to get ready for a tournament, or in a situation of good example is Uriel Antuna, not being able to get any minutes or playing time in Holland. For the club, it was of high interest that he got a lot of playing time and a lot of minutes and keeps developing himself. So that is a little bit where every individual. It's very difficult to generalize here in MLS what you should do and how you should do it. There's a lot of individual decisions that you need to take and that have a direct impact on where you go with your salary cap and where you move forward. In an ideal world, you define how you want to play. And it's your club philosophy, and it goes to how you want to be seen and uh, what your fans relate to and the identity. And then you define a playing style. And based on your playing style, you scout players and you train. That's basically how you assess a club structure or club philosophy. And I think that is still the most important thing. And here you have a little bit of a extra handicap that you have to obviously be very aware that there's a salary cap and you have to work within that. It's fine. It is what it is. That's where we're at.
Where do you feel like you are creating that identity? And I mean, I know it's difficult. And you're only after your first year. After your first year, where do you feel like you are creating that top to bottom?
Well, in certain things, I think it's positive. Like I said, we have some players that within our roster are perfectly within a playing style that we'd like to see by being dynamic and being obviously offensive. Now, to balance out certain other things is very important the upcoming year. And another thing is that there are opportunities for young players, and there is a clear pathway for our academy players. That's something difficult and not easy to achieve, but it's something that in certain ways was pretty positive also this year. So little by little you put those pieces together and you come to a clear identity.
Dennis, ¿han tenido tiempo de planear la pretemporada? En cuestión, ¿se va a realizar aquí en Los Ángeles? ¿Irán a otro lugar? ¿Tienen algo ya estructurado para eso?
Sí, bueno, hemos iniciado pláticas, obviamente dependía mucho de cómo terminamos el torneo, pero la verdad Los Ángeles es un lugar ideal, vienen muchos equipos de todas partes del mundo aquí para prepararse, entonces en caso de que no haya alguna oferta económica que nos hace sentido para salir de acá, pues es de mayor sentido de quedarnos aquí, aprovechar lo bueno que tenemos de las instalaciones, rivales y la verdad también el torneo es de mucha carga para los jugadores y cuerpos técnicos de viaja acá. Viajan mucho, son viajes muy largos. Entonces para pretemporada ya empezar a salir mucho ya es difícil.
Denis, un jugador como Efraín, que ahorita está en el Mundial Sub-17 y que allá ha generado interés también en México. ¿Para ustedes es importante mantenerlo? Digamos, es un muchacho local, lo que tú mencionabas, ¿no? Esa filosofía de también tener jugadores de aquí. ¿Qué tan importante es?
¿Cómo no? No, cómo no. La verdad es muy importante. Efra fue un poco su primer año que tuvo un impacto en el primer equipo, en momentos, en cosas buenas, cosas que tiene que mejorar mucho, pero es un joven sumamente talentoso. Es joven, es muy joven todavía, tiene 17 años y pues, la experiencia de jugar un mundial, el haber convivido con jugadores importantes como Jonathan, como Zlatan, como Cristian, como Román, pues le va sumando a su experiencia y es un jugador que tiene talento. Se identifica mucho con el club, salió de fuerzas básicas acá y no dudo que en algún futuro saldrá a buscar retos mayores, pero esperamos que por lo pronto siga aquí mostrando el talento que tiene y todavía es muy joven, entonces yo creo que necesita un poco más tiempo de maduración también.
Mexico's up 2-0, by the way.
Sorry, go ahead.
Mexico's up 2-0.
Oh, there you go.
Effort went off in the 66th minute.
Okay, there you go.
Speaking of him, though, how important is it for his development? Would it be in his best interest to keep him here or to have him?
For Efra, I
Yeah.
think to be in a first-team environment, get opportunities, balance out his chances and the time he plays, I think is very, very important. You need to be very careful with young players not to overdo it and not to hold back opportunities. So his opportunities, I think, will be more upcoming year because he already had a few this year and he showed that he can handle it in the right way. He's very talented. I think he represents the academy and every effort that has gone into youth development in the last few years very well, and he's a talented player for sure. And there's a lot of eyes on him at the moment in Mexico. He handles that very well, and hopefully he'll be here for a while. And I think at some point before you go somewhere, you need to be established, and that is sometimes the difficulty for young players when they try to be going somewhere before they're actually ready. And I think this is a good place for him. I think he's a kid that on certain things needs to learn a lot, and I think on other aspects of his game he has more than anybody else. So to find a balance that everything clicks together will be still a little bit of time more than anything.
Speaking of that development, how did you feel your second team, Galaxy 2, kind of develop? You saw a lot more younger players get playing time there toward the end. Junior Gonzalez able to come in and kind of try to change things around.
Yeah, I think the change that was made halfway season, I think is good. Not so much geared to results, although it's nice for us to make the playoffs and have that experience. But to have players that are young on the field, play in a consistent lineup, be very much connected to the first team staff, and be very much connected to the academy staff is very, very important. It's a team that sits in the middle. And I think within the current structure of United States soccer, I think it's an important thing for talented young players to have games where they go out and the crowd is a little bit aggressive and there's a few thousand people in the stands and they play against mature players, and that makes our young players better. I think that's a good experience. Now the next step out of this team to move into the first team, like anywhere else in the world, is a challenge for young players. But I think there is an opportunity, and if you look at the opportunities given to Efrain and Julian this year, I think there's a clear idea that other players might follow, hopefully.
Is Junior still the interim coach for G2, or is that?
We're speaking to him now to have him consistently as the coach for the second team.
No one's going to complain about Ibra scoring goals, of course.
Nobody.
It's a wonderful thing.
Scott might, but nobody
No,
else.
it is a wonderful thing, but for much of the season, it was a situation where if Ibra didn't score, would you score? Not a lot of guys contributing goals. Later on in the season, we started to see it a little bit more. I'm just wondering, how confident are you that you guys can find goals elsewhere than Ibra? Just do so better than you have in the past, or if that's something that you have to go out and look for?
I think that's a very good question, because if you look at all the positives, I think one of the biggest positives is to have somebody on the team that score more than 30 goals and have an enormous impact. And everybody obviously trying to engage for him to score so many goals. And one of the challenges is to spread out obviously the importance and the impact of scoring goals and assists over other players. I think we have capable players of doing that, and I think it's one of the things that as a team and as a coaching staff and as a club we need to work on, that other players also step up, and because I'm 100% sure they have the quality to step up, and I think that's something very, very positive for next year to work on. And I agree with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.